Hi guys, Dennis here from Denny Bob's RC Construction. Hey, I'm gonna kind of go through a build that I'm working on right now. It's nowhere near finished yet. I've got a lot to do. I started working on it probably 2 weeks ago. I built the frame and everything. Just a Tamiya King hauler chassis, nothing fantastic. Mostly stock components, but I'll kind of go through what I've done on it so far. And here we go. Well, here it is, King hauler. I'm probably going to do some rim changes yet on it. I'm probably going to take these off. I went with dual hydraulic tanks because I didn't have a big tank to have enough oil reservoir capacity. And I just happened to have a couple of these shorter 85 millimeter tanks on hand. But unfortunately, when I was moving it and tightening one of the bands, I broke one of the bands. I think I can get these replaced somewhere. Maybe, who knows. But what I think I'm going to end up doing is buying myself 105 and just mount it on one side. And then I'll just have one fuel tank, and then I'm going to make a small tank for the makeshift hydraulic wet kit setup. What I've done with this one here, it's a King hauler chassis or frame with a lot of grand hauler parts on it. The 3-speed transmission with a 4-to-1 with a 55 turn motor. It's worked really good for me. That's what I do. A lot of guys will just forego this and maybe put an 80 turn on, and those work fine too. I've got one with a 70 turn on it, but then I also have the 4-to-1. It's just my way of doing things. It's not the only way, it's just my way of doing things. I've got the heavy duty drive shafts installed from TrueScale RC, and the hydraulic box, I'm going to tip this back up, but anyway, I've got it turned, we're here already. This is how I had it teed in, and then I was going to put vents hoses on the tanks, a line between the two, and then vent both of them that way. And then have the hoses run upward, maybe up through the stacks or something. That way, I don't know. It's just something I was thinking. My mind's changed now. I'm going to end up just going with one tank. And I'll probably just put one longer fuel tank. I hated to do it. These darn things are like 65, 70 bucks, and then to have this crap happen. I'm not a huge fan of Lasso tanks, and the only reason I'm not a fan of them is the diamond treading is more of a European diamond tread on there. That's one of my biggest pet peeves on them. But I do like the steps. Maybe I'll turn the truck around, but I've got a brushless hydraulic pump mounted up inside the battery box. It fits in there just perfect. Just one that I had here in my stockpile of parts, and I tried it and it fit in there perfect. It's basically fastened to the side with a couple of screws that I've Loctited in. They really don't vibrate much, these brushless pumps don't, so hopefully it doesn't vibrate these loose and ruin the holes. But that's here nor there. Anyway, whatever happens, happens. I'm probably going to take the stock mud guards off. I'm really not a fan of them. I've actually went to Reg at RCP and ordered a rear bumper kit for it, bumper and flaps, and he's just got plain black ones, and I'll put my Kenworth flaps on it on his brackets and whatnot. And I also ordered a tapered front polished aluminum bumper for it from him too with RCP. I'm gonna get this kind of flip back up I got to have both hands to do it. But I did put a solid steering horn for the steering. I still have the servo saver style for the shift. I do like that on the shift, kind of give it a little cushion if it doesn't quite go into gear. I've never put a solid one on there. I've never broken a servo saver on the shifting mechanism. Now I have broken them on the steering before. It's nothing new. But I got to order another tank, and that's probably going to take a week or so to get here before I'll get around to actually getting this plumbed up and working. I don't have any electronics in the cab yet or anything, but it's just stock components as far as the plastic housings. I do go through the differentials and put ball bearings in the differentials and axles, and in the transmission I put all ball bearings, the ball bearing kits. You can buy a ball bearing kit for one of these, and it'll have everything to do the transmission and everything to do the axles, and it also comes with enough ball bearings to replace the front wheels as well. The kits are out there, but let's get this kind of turned, and I'll kind of show you what I did with the cab. Now I did go and buy a Kenworth grill and emblem. It's a polished aluminum grill and emblem. These are the Grand Hauler stock lights, and I have light bulbs in each one of the lenses. I have 3 millimeters, I think, are on the inside ones, and they're 5s on the outside ones. What I did to kind of make it more Kenworthy-ish is I took and shaved that outside lip off the fenders, made them smooth. I had some plans on putting some rubber, a rubber fender flare on here yet. I haven't decided. I can get that from JHR. They make some, and I'm not sure how well they'll fit and how well they'll look, but that's a plan down the road maybe. I did go through the air cleaners, and I took my pieces of, I think 3 short pieces of shrink tubing, and you got to be real careful when you heat that up, because that ABS plastic will melt if you get too excited with it and distort it. So just enough to get it to shrink, and then I trimmed it off, and it makes it look more like there's hoses on the air cleaners instead of the old chrome. Just a Grand visor, King clearance lights with Grand factory Grand horns, and a set of Grand pipes. One of the things with running the pipes, then you're kind of limited. You got to use a battery box or a short, fuel tank here if you wanted to put a fuel tank there or whatever. But I went with the Grand, and I'm not sure where this plating came from. They have the original. I actually took and glued these on, trimmed them. They were used to have an angle on one side. I'm not sure where I got these. I got them in a box of parts, miscellaneous parts from somebody, and I had enough to do both sides. I think it looks a little better myself. I wish I knew what kit's got those in it to do that. Puts the treads on there, makes it look a little nicer. But like I say, these tanks are going to come off. I'm going to go and order, I think it's 105 millimeter hydraulic reservoir from Lasue, and maybe if I can do it, I don't know if I can find some diamond treading. I think I actually have a sheet of it around here, actual American looking diamond tread, that I might take and glue over top of these, just to make them look more not European, non-European. I don't put any cab interiors in my trucks, just simply because I have too much other stuff going in the cab. When you have the sleeper on there, you have all kinds of room that you can bury the stuff in. And I know people have questions about this box. This box is actually a DPS box, DPS scale, out of Vietnam. I did not get this one from Vietnam. A friend of mine, he bought one of my Mack dump trucks that I had, and he had this for his project that he was going to do. So then I turned around and bought that from him. You know, he's had it for 3-4 years or whatever, sitting in one of those someday projects. So then I bought it and I painted it blue. It was just plain stainless. The only thing I don't like about the stainless boxes from DPS is if you ever wanted to modify or drill a hole or anything, that stainless is a pain to drill holes in. It can be done, but it's a pain. But then I went and I put some mesh screen around here. I almost wish I would have tried to find some grand air cleaners to put on here. Maybe I will yet, but for now, that's good enough for me. Just a standard grand windshield wipers. Now, another thing I did to kind of make it Kenworthy-ish is I smoothed out the side of the hood. There's usually that rail that runs down the side with all the rivets in it. I removed it. I smoothed it out and got rid of it. I'm kind of thinking I maybe should have taken the top of the hood and smoothed it out. But I figured I'm not no truck expert. I don't go to shows and look at a bunch of trucks. You get a bunch of pictures of semis or trucks on the internet, and it's a side view. You get this view. You don't get to see the top of the hood. And I've never been in a, Kenworth semi to know that, hey, it's a smooth top, whatever. I'm gonna call it good because I'm not tearing it back down and repainting the thing. Nope. But grand mirrors. What I did do is I went in and notched the side of the cab where they usually have a bar in here to separate for like a vent window. Well, I removed that and kind of made a makeshift like the Kenworth doors are. And then I drilled a hole down here and I made new Lexan. It was kind of a smoked color. I wish I could have got completely tinted. And then it would kind of cover my wires for my clearance lights. Don't look. You can see them. They're in there. I'm not the greatest wire hiding guy, so bear with me on that. But King, I wish I could find these in square because a lot of the Kenworth had square turn signals on the top of the fenders. And I thought about different ways of making them, and I'm toying with the idea of making some, but that's down the road. I went and got some amber material that I might try making some square ones out of, but that's here nor there. We'll figure it out as I go. And then I took it, I went and I trimmed around, painted the hinges and the door chrome around the doors. I put kind of a chrome across the top of the door. I could have put a visor on there. I thought about it. A lot of the trucks have visors, and I could have easily made some nice little visors to go and kind of, obstruct the view like so much of it does, but keeps sun out of the real trucks. But then I took the stock little tabs that are usually part of that go on the Grand Hauler bumpers, and I trimmed them down, and then I've got a little screw here holding that up there, and then the bumper will kind of sit down underneath that. Yeah, I think it'll look okay. Only time will tell when I get it and then actually get it put together. But this is a DPS box. It's a hydraulic stage cylinder. It is a brass hydraulic staged cylinder. It's a Lasso, 100 millimeter in length. Since I don't have fluid in it yet, it'll kind of lets the air go back and forth in it. Since I don't have any fluid in it yet, but I'm not going to put any fluid in it because I've made a tank change, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to get rid of these. I actually have some nicer blacked out mud flap deals, and I might mount here that bolt to the side of the frame. I might do some changes there, but I think I'm going to go with the Alcoa looking aluminum rims on this truck. I do like the white, don't get me wrong. I've done some semis where I've put the aluminums on the front and then put the white buds in the back. But I have the aluminum rims here. It's not like I got to go out and buy them. I have a bunch of them, and I'll put the wides up front like I do right now, the 28 millimeter wides on the front, and the 22s on the back. I had debated on maybe buying some JHR tires yet. I don't know. I've got tires on hand, so I don't want to go out and buy a bunch more stuff. You know, I'm trying to use stuff that I already had. I already had the hydraulic pump here. I already had that hydraulic cylinder here. Forgot I even had it. Because all he had was just the box. And I think he was going to put a mechanical lift of some kind on it, maybe. But since I had all the parts here, I just bought the box from him. And it's got a tarper deal that I got to go and put on it yet. And I have to put the little electric motor in it and everything else. But I haven't even have a tailgate in it yet because that's still hanging from being painted. It didn't turn out the greatest. I had it all wiped clean and perfectly clean, but actually, you know, wiped it down, tried to get as much oil off the surfaces and everything, but unfortunately it did. Even the plastic, you know, I do hot soapy water and try to get all the oily residue off these cabs, but for some reason it's got some little tiny fish eyes in it, and it's not perfect by no means, but good enough for me. I don't feel bad when I go put a scratch in a paint job that's not perfect, you know, about like that one. It's a good 6-foot paint job. Same with this. It looks really good from back here. I'm just not gonna go real close. But I did use the stock King Hauler decals that come in the King Hauler kits. And some people have asked me if that's painted on or it's a decal. A lot of guys that don't buy the you know, like the King Hauler or Grand Hauler kits, they don't know that these decals come with those kits. But anyway, it takes a little time, cut them, make them fit, and but I'm pretty happy with how it's turned out so far. I don't know if I'm going to put a sound kit in it yet or not. I haven't decided. There's a lot of stuff on this truck that's up in the air, including the truck yet, but I don't have the bumpers or rear bumper or front bumpers for it yet. So the one thing about the DPS box, they do pivot off the back screw on the frame, and Reg's bumpers actually bolt to the two back bolt holes here, you know, this lower one and this upper one that they're using as a pivot point for their box. So I'm gonna have to figure out a way to make his bracket work, and maybe I'll just put a spacer in the bottom bolt and then just have it kind of sandwiched in between where it pivots. That's another thing that's kind of up in the air, but overall I'm pretty happy with how it's turned out so far. I did have my paint booth up and painting this right in front of there and tried to keep as much dust and dirt. But, you know, you start walking around in the shop and you don't get the floor quite clean and little dust comes up and little specks here and there. It's not perfect by no means, and I am kind of picky, but I'm not. I try my best to do the best job I can. But unfortunately, sometimes my best is not even good enough for me. But I'm happy enough with it. It is going to be what it is. You know, I built the truck to go out in the dirt and use and get dirty. So, and it's going to get scratched, and over time they don't look as good anyway. But that's about it. I mean, I've gone quite a ways, but the cab's got to come off again, and I'm going to have to take this off again to get in there and redo my hoses, because I went and I cut the hoses for these dual tanks, and then that band broke, and now I got to start back over again. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how it's going. I mean, it doesn't take much to take these trucks back apart and work on them. It's just, I'm going to have to take that back out, take the pump back out, undo the hoses, put new hose in. But it doesn't take long. You know, it's just nuts and bolts. But anyway, that's my latest build anyway. It is based off a King Hauler chassis. That's the rail length and everything. I know if you were to buy these boxes, I think they're like $360 to $400 roughly, but then they want you in almost another $200 for shipping. So you keep that in mind. But then you have to buy your hydraulic cylinder, hydraulic pump, hydraulic tank and reservoir, and a brushless ESC to power your pump. You know, that's all the stuff you got to buy to make this work. You got to have an ESC to do the tarp. So, I mean, it's not like you can buy it. It's a kit that's ready to go. You have to buy all the components and then build it. That's why I do kind of like to go through Reg with RCP. The boxes are a little more expensive, but it's strictly a bolt-on box. You can have him, you order from him, and he'll powder coat it whatever color you want, whatever they have available, I guess. And kind of like that one was powder coated red, so that worked fine for me. But yeah, this one I actually had to paint, and I think through DPS you can do the same. You can have them powder coat it whatever color you want, whatever they have available. But I did use the DPS reflective tape that came with my stainless steel cattle trailer. I didn't like it on there. I'm not a real huge fan of the DPS because they put DPS on the white. I don't wish they wouldn't do that. But it is what it is. You know, I didn't want to go spend another $10 to $20 on tape. You know, I'm gonna have to buy another tank, and that's another $70 or $80 for a tank. So I was thinking I had one around here, but I don't. So I know I wish there was somebody else in the game of building the tanks for these. You know, get away from the Lasso brand. I do like Lasso for some of their stuff, but I'm not a huge fan. But I got to use them because they are out there. You know, I'm not going to make a tank myself. Take too much time. But anyway, I'm pretty happy with how it's turned out so far. You'll have to let me know what you think. And thanks for coming along for the ride. Catch you guys later.